I survived my manipulative boss and exposed him. The full story will shock you. I'll never forget my first day at the company. I had spent months chasing this position, perfecting my resume, rehearsing answers, psyching myself up for corporate life. I walked into the office, briefcase in hand, and immediately felt the hum of ambition, competition, and tension. The air smelled faintly of coffee and anxiety, and the open concept layout made every whisper feel amplified. My boss, Jason, was everything they promised: magnetic, articulate, effortlessly confident. He smiled at me, shook my hand, and said, "I think you're going to fit right in." There was a flicker in his eyes, a tiny spark of something I couldn't read. At the time, I chalked it up to first-day nerves. But I'd learned that spark meant everything. At first, everything seemed perfect. Jason praised my work in meetings, gave me high-profile projects, and asked for my insights on client strategy. I felt valued, respected, like maybe I'd actually made it. But I also started noticing the subtle dynamics of the office. Marissa, a senior employee, looked exhausted, like she'd been running uphill forever. She smiled at me, but there was a heaviness in her gaze, a warning she didn't voice. Kyle, another colleague, was outwardly charming but had a way of cracking jokes that cut just a little too close, always testing boundaries. Amber, quiet, observant Amber, watched me in a way that felt like she could see right through me, as if she knew I was about to get hurt. And Darren, Jason's protege, followed him everywhere, hungry for approval, eager to become part of Jason's inner circle. The first real warning came during a major client presentation. I had triple-checked everything: slides, numbers, client history, all perfect. But during the pitch, Jason interrupted me mid-sentence. "Wait, this isn't what we agreed on. Are you sure these numbers are correct?" I froze. My slides were perfect. I knew it. The clients furrowed their brows, glancing between Jason and me. Later, I realized my carefully prepared deck had been swapped for an earlier draft. He had set me up to fail. From then on, I began noticing the small manipulations: emails quietly changed, my ideas reworded and presented as his, subtle digs in meetings that chipped away at my confidence. I started documenting everything: screenshots, timestamps, even casual remarks that felt like traps. The paranoia wasn't imaginary. Then came the Chicago conference, a big networking event and a chance to shine. But one night, I wandered into the hotel bar and froze. Jason was there, laughing, holding hands under the table with a woman I didn't know. He kissed her, right there in public, and my stomach dropped. The next morning, he acted as if nothing had happened, chatting casually as if the previous night's incident hadn't existed. That's when I realized it: nothing about this office or this man was simple. I wasn't just working in a high-pressure environment. I was in the middle of a battlefield, and I didn't even know the rules yet. Back home, exhausted and anxious, I opened my laptop. My inbox pinged. An anonymous email had arrived: "You're being set up. Jason isn't what he seems. Watch your work, and keep evidence." I stared at it, unsure whether to panic or proceed cautiously. Paranoia or truth? I wasn't sure yet, but from that moment on, I began documenting everything meticulously. Every email, every project, every conversation became a record. Over the next few weeks, Jason's behavior shifted. He was overly charming one moment, subtly aggressive the next. Meetings became minefields. He praised me privately, then undermined me publicly. The charm that had once drawn me in now felt like a weapon, and I was learning to dodge it. Amber became an unlikely ally. One afternoon, she approached me quietly, handing me a folder. Inside were screenshots, emails showing Jason rewriting my work, taking credit for projects, subtly sabotaging me. She whispered, "You need to protect yourself. This isn't office politics. He's been doing this to people for years." I realized then that nothing I did would be safe. Every move, every late night, every effort could be twisted into evidence against me. I had to be smart, careful, patient. And the manipulations escalated. My projects were misrepresented in meetings. Darren would quietly nudge information my way, but only partially, so that mistakes seemed like mine. Kyle's jokes became sharper, cutting more deeply, but he always had a grin that let him deny malice. Marissa, whom I had tried to befriend, offered vague warnings but little practical advice. It was like everyone was caught in the same web, some pawns, some observers, some accomplices. Then came the first major disaster. I spent 3 nights preparing a key strategy deck. Every number verified, every graph polished. Jason called me into the conference room. "This is going to blow the clients away," he said, grinning. I presented. Halfway through, he interrupted me, frowning. "This isn't what we agreed on. Are you sure these numbers are correct?" I opened the slide. I was right. But the clients were confused. Jason smiled innocently, as if nothing had happened. He had swapped my deck again. Public humiliation. A subtle, undeniable warning. As weeks passed, subtle chaos became routine. Personal emails went missing, projects were reassigned without notice, and casual conversations were twisted into gossip. I started noticing patterns. Amber had been quietly leaving notes and evidence on my desk. Darren began acting strangely, sometimes giving me crucial information, sometimes withholding it. Kyle seemed to be playing a game I couldn't understand. One day, Marissa pulled me aside. Her eyes were dark, tired. "You have no idea what you're dealing with. Jason doesn't just manipulate projects. He manipulates people, your colleagues, your friends, even your reputation." Her words terrified me. Every instinct screamed that I needed to survive, but also that survival might require breaking unspoken rules. I was trapped in a delicate dance, trust the wrong person, and everything collapses. Then came the twist I didn't expect. One night, while reviewing files at home, I discovered a hidden folder Jason had left on a shared drive. It contained expense reports with dates and locations that didn't match client meetings. There were screenshots of private messages, some of them incriminating, some of them manipulative. And one note referenced someone I knew at another branch. Amber. My heart raced. This wasn't just about me anymore. There was a bigger network here, a web of manipulation, deceit, and betrayal. And I was at the center of it all. I realized then that surviving this job wasn't about working harder. It was about outthinking him, documenting everything, and learning who could be trusted, if anyone. And the most frightening thought? Jason always seemed to know more than he should. He had eyes everywhere, ears everywhere, and a charm so potent it made even the strongest colleagues falter. But I had one advantage he didn't anticipate. I was awake now. I was aware. And I wasn't going down without a fight. I spent nights cross-referencing emails, client reports, and meeting notes. Every inconsistency, every slip, became evidence. But I couldn't confront Jason outright. Not yet. I needed allies. Amber became my secret partner in this. She had her own grievances and quietly slipped me warnings, insider knowledge, and documents. Darren, meanwhile, grew unpredictable. Sometimes he offered crucial information, half suggestions, cryptic hints, but other times, he deliberately misled me. I wasn't sure if he was scared of Jason, playing me, or just enjoying the chaos. Then came the rumor phase. Jason started subtly circulating stories about me in mismanaged projects, client complaints, questionable work ethic. At first, it was just whispers. But soon, colleagues started avoiding me, meetings were suddenly rescheduled without my knowledge, and projects I'd spent weeks on were reassigned or erased. I was invisible and vilified at the same time. I confronted Marissa, desperate for advice. She hesitated, then admitted something I couldn't believe. Jason doesn't just play games, he creates loyalty tests. People who stay neutral are safe. People who resist, they disappear professionally. I felt a chill. Disappear professionally. She looked me in the eyes. You've already been tested, and you passed, for now. But it won't stop unless you expose him or get out. My mind raced. Expose him? How? HR would never believe me without solid evidence. And leaving wasn't an option. I had worked too hard to get here. Then came the twist I didn't expect. Darren approached me with an ultimatum. You need to play his game, or you're next. His tone wasn't threatening, it was scared. He gave me a flash drive with files I hadn't seen before, client contracts with altered numbers, internal memos, even copies of his own manipulations against colleagues. It was staggering. Jason had been orchestrating this for years, building a web of influence and control. And somehow, I'd stumbled into the middle of it. I realized the only way forward was subtlety. I continued documenting, staying professional, keeping my head down publicly. But privately, Amber and I began building a timeline, connecting the dots, and creating a dossier that could survive HR scrutiny, or even a legal investigation. Then came the most shocking moment. One Friday afternoon, during a meeting with the executive team, Jason tried to publicly humiliate me again. He interrupted my report, claiming I had misrepresented client feedback. The room went silent. I stayed calm. Calm. I projected confidence even though my heart was racing. When the meeting ended, I handed my compiled evidence to the head of HR, anonymously, through a secure channel, and requested an investigation. I wasn't sure if it would work, but I had to try. Over the weekend, the company buzzed with rumors. By Monday morning, Jason had been called into an unexpected meeting with HR and senior management. The shock on his face was palpable when they confronted him with documents, emails, and testimonies that linked him to manipulation, sabotage, and unethical behavior. But the biggest twist? Darren had secretly recorded some of Jason's private conversations where he admitted his schemes, unknowingly implicating himself in the process. HR had the recordings too. Jason was cornered. And then it got even more surreal. Amber revealed that she had been working with another branch of the company all along, tracking Jason's manipulations to protect other employees. The entire situation had been a larger investigation. They had been waiting for someone brave enough to collect the evidence. That someone had been me. Jason was placed on immediate leave, pending a full investigation. Darren and Kyle were reassigned, Marissa received a promotion, and the office slowly returned to a fragile normal. But the emotional scars lingered. I had survived a psychological battlefield. I had been manipulated, sabotaged, and gaslit, but I had endured. In the weeks that followed, I reflected on everything. I had lost trust, but I had also learned resilience. I had been tested and had passed, not because I was smarter than Jason, but because I refused to be broken. And the final twist, the one that nobody expected, Jason tried to appeal his suspension quietly, confident that no one could prove anything. But every email, every document, every timeline I had painstakingly compiled was airtight. He didn't get a second chance. I left the company a year later, not because I feared, but because I had grown too strong to stay. The office drama that had once consumed me had become a story of survival, strategy, and justice. And even though I had moved on, the memory of those months of the lies, the whispers, the betrayals, still sends shivers down my spine. Sometimes, I wonder if I'd done the right thing. But one thing is certain, I faced the chaos head-on, documented every betrayal, and walked out stronger than I ever imagined.